Welcome and welcome back. Here we are, and we are headed out to Half Moon Cay. I'm here to tell you the good, the bad, the ugly, and whether or not you should consider adding this to your next destination. Let's jump into it. So, if you don't know, Half Moon Cay, otherwise known as Little San Salvador Island, is one of those islands of Highland America, otherwise known as Carnival. So Carnival purchased this island back in 1997, and ooh, they have been busy since. They've definitely done a lot of development, and during my time there, I was able to see the continuing development that they are doing and what they're looking to do and or expect for the future. So, in their purchase in 1997, the island was purchased for around $6 million and is just over 2,400 acres. In this time here, they have continued to make this a destination and something that those for Carnival are interested in doing, and I still think there's definitely some room for opportunity and growth. Now, first things first, as a traveler, how do you get there? How do we get there? So, it being an island here in the Bahamas, there is something that we do have to, of course, you're going to cruise to, and it is accessible via the cruise ship with Carnival. It is Carnival's island, so you must be cruising with Carnival to be able to access the key. Now, other piece to it is there is no port. I was kind of surprised to see that there was no port, given that it's Carnival Cruises, aka Highland America, who purchased this island, you know, now 20-something years ago, and they don't have a port. So you do have to tender in. The tender in piece, I have tendered in with other places, other locations before via cruise, and each kind of setup is something a little different. On a previous cruise, I have done the tender where it was with actually one of the rescue boats, where you see, you have like when you go to your muster station and they have the rescue boats on the outside and you see what that would look like. And it was kind of cool because in the event of emergency, you was able to kind of see, hey, this is what the tender boat looks like. This is the spread of it, you know, kind of, you know, the day-to-day of what that would kind of be. In this particular situation, I actually accessed it via the Carnival Venezia, and the tenders that came to the Carnival Venezia were actually smaller boats that came from the island. They were nothing from the Carnival Venezia ship. So that was part one. Now, with that being said, they, in my opinion, were kind of doing the best that they could, but there were certain areas that seemed to be a little disheveled. Now, for myself, who was an able-bodied individual, I was able to do stairs and kind of navigate that with the boat moving. But of course, there were individuals who were handicap accessible, being able to go on, whether it, you know, was a concern with stairs or if they were wheelchair bound. I saw some folks on the Venezia with scooters as well. And that kind of piece, when it came to doing the tender piece, got a little complex. There was really no communication on the Carnival Venezia before going to the tender that, you know, we didn't really have a place to accommodate you, if you will. And in coming on off the ship onto the tender boat, there were areas where there was like a handicap sign, but you couldn't actually sit there. And the reason that the boat staff, if you will, had said, hey, you know, you're not able to sit here, is because the sides of the boat had no barrier, so it would be open. So basically, you'd be open, you'd be flying off, and there you are. Now, with that being said, that piece of it, if you do have those or folks, you know, who are handicap accessible, I would definitely reach out or go to get services to see what that would look like, or to see if there are other arrangements that can perhaps be made. Now, the tender itself from the island, you could, of course, where they docked, ported, or stayed stopped in the water view, where you could see the island there. You could see, of course, everything, but you could kind of say, oh, it's right there. So it wasn't one of those things where you were kind of like going off into the abyss on the tender, but it was there. Now, once the boarding and everything got situated, to get over the ride was maybe 15 minutes, 15, you know, ish minutes to be able to get there, 10, 15 minutes to be able to go over. They took their time to get over, and it took a little bit, of course, to be able to go get to the area that we needed to get to in that little cove and actually port to be able to start to disembark. So it wasn't a far distance, but the process in and of itself was a process. Now, part two of the whole how do you get there piece was a little challenging, because the port, we were only docked there for X period of time, if you will. So if it was 6 hours or 7 hours, that we would be able to get off. And in my opinion, that piece of it was a little challenging because they had, of course, priority for individuals who had tours, which I did end up doing a tour. So there were priorities for those folks who had tours. But if you didn't have a tour scheduled on the island, pretty much you weren't able to get off until like 11 or 12 o'clock in the day. And in my opinion, if we had ported, if we were already ported there, say 8 or 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock in the morning, why do you have to wait till almost noon, to be able to get off and explore the island, or, have your time there on the island, at the beach, whatever it is you would like to do, just because you didn't have, an excursion booked. So that piece of it I didn't necessarily feel was, I don't like the word fair, but I'm going to use it. I didn't necessarily feel was fair. I felt that they perhaps either needed to have more tender options, or perhaps, of course, the obvious, have a dock. Have a dock where people could come and go, get off and come and go as they please. So that's definitely one of the challenges. Part 2 is the tour and the beach. Now, once you get off the tender, you go on, you're on the island, boom. Now, get it on the night before. They did give us our tickets, if you will, for our tour, our excursion. There were a few different ones going on. One, the tour that I was able to go on was actually a tour of an island. You're able to go on to this kind of bus type deal, but it's open air, and you get on. We had our guide, her name was Yvette. Hey Yvette, she was absolutely phenomenal. She is from one of the neighboring keys there in Bahamas, and of course is a Bahamian, and was able to give us the rundown. Yvette was very, very cool, very knowledgeable in doing her tour, but she also, during our tour, she also explained some of the other tours and excursions and things that happen on the island. Now, more specifically, the island in and of itself is not self-sufficient. So the island, the people who live there, the folks who live there, are actually Carnival employees, and there was around just under 70 people who actually live there on the island, like they live there, eat there, sleep there, kind of bit. And when they need stuff or need more, support, resources, what have you, they reach out to Carnival, hey, we need XYZ, and they're able to bring those items over for them. We did get to see their living arrangements and or accommodations. There were also other expansions and other construction and work that was being done, which is kind of cool to be able to see what's what, see their updates, see their new, how do you say? I want to say like almost like apartment kind of suites, if you will, to be able to see what that was. They had like a promo up of what it was, and also some of the foundation that had been built to be able to see what that would look like. So it kind of gave you a better idea or consensus. So you did see that. Now, as we continue to go around, we also was able to see some of the landscape, the lush browns, greens, what that looks like, how they're able to get their resources for like internet and electricity, and what that looks like, their towers there for the island. Also coming around, we were able to see some of their wildlife there. They did have stingrays. They had a stingray cove, if you will. That seemed to be an excursion that, of course, you could book. We were able to go up to the stingray cove and see what that looks like. But to be able to go out and interact more or less with the stingrays, that is an experience or an excursion that you can book. Further down, we also, of course, were able to see the beach, and we were able to see their villas. Now, the villas, I thought, in and of itself were very, very cute. The villas are very, very cute. They were further down on the beach line, and the interesting piece about the villas is the same thing. They're not for people there to stay. It's more of like a, hey, you're going to be going out, for the day, because the cruise ship is only stopping for that day, right? But it's not even for the full day. So
$1,000 a day. Small single ones at a private cabanas, and they can run you like into $700 a day. Cabanas, villas, oasis, you will have to book them all in advance on board the ship, and the prices normally fluctuates as well. Two-story ones that come with amenity of air-conditioned hot tubs, freshwater shower, mist fans, snorkeling gears, floating mats, your towels. Also in your cabanas, you find your snacks like your drinks, fruit, chips, dips. The smaller ones that come with the same amenity, but the only thing, the small ones doesn't have hot tubs in them. On the beach, you notice the blue covering. They accommodate 2 persons under them. They would be called clamshell or half shade. I normally say once planning the day at the beach, best if you book your clamshell in advance on board the ship. If they're not sold out from the ship, you can rent them at Water Sports 1, Water Sports 2 booth. They also have umbrellas are there for rentals as well. Now, I guess all of you here already know that all of the beach chairs are free. First come, first serve for the beach chairs.
But again, the cruise ship was not stopping for like overnight. It was only there for the day, and it was only really like 8 hours or so, 7 to 8 hours or so for the day that you could actually disembark, get on, get off, so on and so forth. So with that being said, I don't know personally that I would want to venture to get a villa to only be able to use it for 7 hours. And keep in mind, we were out earlier, on the island because we had a tour booked. If we didn't have a tour booked, we probably would only actually maybe have gotten 3 or 4 hours, maybe 4 hours on the island. So given that and kind of learning that piece later, I don't know that it would be worth booking the villa, but definitely let me know in the comments if you have booked a villa on Half Moon Cay and what your experience was. Now, moving further down in the tour, we also were able to see horses. They do have horses, and of course that is an excursion that you can book. Here on the tour, we were able to go to the horses, see them, definitely interact with the horses if that's something that you wanted to do or were comfortable with. And of course, they had the best view because they were right across from the ocean where you can see that. And of course, in your excursion, if you do choose to book with horses, you can definitely go into the water, have your experience there, and of course they had a trail for them. Now, as it pertains to getting into the water, especially there with the wildlife, they do have opportunity for like photo ops, or where like pixels or their photo entities, their photographers will come off the ship and can capture your memories and your experiences there. I did on this particular cruise with the Carnival get the opportunity to do professional photos, and that is something that I actually asked about and discussed with them. I was like, hey, what does that look like, if you will? And the gentleman, they explained it to me, very, very kind, very, very sweet, did a phenomenal job. Again, they were a little pricey. You get what you pay for, but they did do a phenomenal job. And in that, he did, of course, mention, hey, that is something that when we go stop there, you can also come and book with us if you know that you want to do horseback riding, or you want to do, horse with ocean, pictures, or, you and stingray pictures, or you and, whatever. That is something that you can do. We just have to kind of schedule it, if you will, and we'll be able to go in and get that done. So I thought that was very cool. Now, part 2 with the wildlife and the animals there seemed to be like there were some chickens, roosters kind of roaming about. So I thought that was interesting. People were, of course, feeding them, and I'm like, don't feed the wildlife. But people were, of course, feeding them. So the question, of course, came up on the tour. You guys experienced hurricanes, being that there's an island, what happens to the wildlife? So, and I thought it was a great question. And in that, the tour guide explained that, hey, we let them free. We let them free. They're able to roam about the island. And for the tour, for the hurricanes that they have had, which they have had several since being there, since opening in 1997, they said their animals were able to, of course, hunker down, take care of whatever it was they needed to take care of, swim, and they were there when they came back to the island. They were there, they were okay and whatnot when they came back to the island. So I thought that was a very, very interesting, turn of events. And she also mentioned that was the same for the stingray. The stingrays there, they were of course let free. And at some point in time, they decided to mosey their way back. Basically, the consensus of it was, hey, this is where you get fed, this is where food was. So food was available, and they kind of moseyed and came on back. So that was at the beach. So heading into the beach. Now, right when we came off from the tender, well, of course, we see the beach, we see, the quay, we see the quay and everything there is kind of to be seen, at least in that first section. Of course, you can go out and explore. Now, with the beach being what it is a first come, first serve situation to be able to kind of get a chair and an umbrella. However, if you have a tour, if you have other things booked, you kind of have to, get there when you get there kind of situation. So that piece could be challenging. What I will say is, if that's something that you want to do and you want to spend more time on the beach with the family, especially if you didn't book an excursion, try to get off as soon as possible, because space does kind of go quickly. Now, what I will say is, further up the quay in the, half moon kind of C shape, if you will, there was more space, but that space did not seem to be lifeguarded or really supported all that well. In the area further where, you know, the majority of people were, there were a few folks on like jet skis, lifeguards, they're just kind of further out. So if something were to happen, they could kind of get to you quick, address the situation, kind of bring you in to shore. But the further you kind of went up, there was nothing that I really saw that was roped off that said don't go past this point or you shouldn't go past this point. But it was just kind of strange that there was really no people past a certain point, if you know what I mean. So it was kind of like, it was almost like it went without saying that, hey, you go up there and something happens and you mess around, you're on your own, you know. So there was that. But other than that, the beach was nice, beautiful, water was clear. There was definitely like the, you know, the little fishies, to be able to see a lot of those like miniature transparent fish. And of course, the further you go out, the larger the aquatic life was. One of the other passengers mentioned, she said that her colleague came and brought Cheerios, and I was like, Cheerios? I've never heard of that. And basically there, you know, the fish and the stuff came, and, you know, it was her first time going, her first experience being able to go out, whether it's, you know, I believe to the Bahamas was her first time, and she said she absolutely enjoyed it. Beautiful trip. And we happened to luck out the day that we went to Half Moon Cay. The weather was actually good because it was like more or less a winter cruise. So I think that was very, very cool. The only tip I will say about going to the beach is, one, of course, get there early if you want an umbrella, and two, you need water shoes. This is definitely something I probably dropped the ball on. More specifically, I didn't expect the weather really to be all that warm or warm enough to be in water, and for the most of the trip it wasn't. But like I said, this particular day it was maybe like the only 80, 84, 85 degree day that we had, so we lucked up. But more specifically being what that is, there was a lot of rocky terrain in there. And again, each beach is different. Some has more, some have less. There was a lot of rocky terrain where it kind of like, I came out to a certain point and I was like, I need to go. I need to go back to where it was soft. And there it was that. So bring your water. Number 3, food. So the food that we had on the island was actually not bad. Now they did have, it was set up kind of buffet style. They were doing hamburgers, hot dogs. There was salad, salsa, they had chips, but not the rest of the stuff for nachos, which was kind of strange unless it was just the chips and salsa. They had like a jerk chicken type set. The jerk chicken was banging. That jerk chicken was just funny because that jerk chicken wasn't on the ship. I don't know where that jerk chicken came from, but the jerk chicken on there was good. Pretty much the other stuff that we seen out there, we kind of had on there, except for the nachos and the hamburger hot dog. Now on the cruise line for the Carnival Venezia, they had Guy's Burgers. So Guy's Burgers was actually really, really good. But the burgers that we had on the island was something different. That was like a quick, maybe like a frozen thing. Like I said, it was okay, but it wasn't anything that had me like, They had, like I said, they had the jerk chicken, they had like a spiced Cajun rice. Those two things were really, really good. The rest of it for out on the island was like meh. Now on the way back, we started seeing them bring the food and stuff back to the ship. And at that point, that's where I think we were like, everything came from the ship. And that's where I kind of mentioned, like, it's not like an island like, you know, like Hawaii or maybe some of those other places where they're kind of like self-sufficient, kind of doing their own thing. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. Also, very important, your sail and sign card. So you get a sail and sign card for your cruise ship, or more specifically there with Carnival, it does not work on the island for your soda packages. You can purchase with the sign and sail card at the store, but you cannot use it at the straw market, and you can also not use your soda package there for the sign and sail card, and you cannot check your balance. That was a biggie for some people. I definitely heard several conversations going on about, hey, they want to use it for something and they were like, hey, it wasn't going through for whatever reason or another. And they were like, hey, you got to talk to guest services. Guest services is on the ship. So you remember you had to tender over and get it. So there's no talking to guest services right now that, that you got something going on. So I do believe that they took regular, the 4 major cards, if you will, MasterCard, Visa, American Express, but for the most part, they were like, hey, a lot of people, you know, want to use a sale and sign card, especially if you linked up a card or you added funds to your balance for budgetary purposes, that those were kind of limited there. Now for the shopping bit, of course, like I mentioned, they did have a store. The store was nice. I'll try to insert some footage, of course, but the store was nice. It was temperature controlled. There were a couple things there that I was like, oh, these are cute, and I wanted to come back to kind of see it, but it was before my tour, so I was like, I didn't really know what the tour situation was going to be, or if I was going to have to carry a bunch of stuff, or if you could leave it on the, you know, leave it on the bus, if you will. But the shop, I had mentioned to the concierge, if I was like, hey, I was like, you know, some nice stuff, you know, what time are you open until, just so like if I wanted to kind of swing back to get it. And she was like, well, what time is the ship here until? I was like, I think it's 3. I'm not gonna wait till 3 to get back. I think it's so she was like, the time the ship is here is the time we're here. So I was like, oh. So it's kind of like everybody was kind of leaving together kind of deal when it came time, you know, in the afternoon it came time to leave. Now the other shopping option was pretty much the straw market. The straw market there definitely had the opportunity to pick up some fun tchotchkes. 2 of the items that I picked up, of the many that I picked up, but 2 of the items that I picked up here were, of course, you have to, of course, get a gorgeous fan. I definitely found these here super affordable, something that I think, you know, you can always gift if that's something that you're looking to do, and or of course use for yourself and make phenomenal display pieces. Now another thing that I've seen, and I had to get it, was this beauty here, and you also see here for the half moon key. This particular one I absolutely like. Has a bow on the other side, but also has this chin piece, and I'm glad I got it with the little chin piece, because I ended up getting it. I went through and I was like, no, let me wait till the tour is over and then come back, and I don't have to worry about getting it or packing it or losing it. And when I came back, kind of in the waiting area for where the tour was supposed to leave out of, I saw more and more people coming, and the lady was like, she said, yeah, you know, you definitely come back, of course, we're here until such and such a time, but you know, the stock of what you see is all of what we have. So she's like, there's no back stock, there's no understock, there's no, you know, back room, like this is a strong mark, this is it. So I seen it. This was the last black that they had. They had some turquoise, some other cool colors, but I was like, I wanted the black, so I was like, Urgh. I'm like, it has to be that. So definitely thought this was a cool look and met one of the many requirements I was looking for. Is the overall experience. Now, the overall experience there on the island, I definitely think was very nice, very warm, inviting. Again, the folks were nice, people were nice, you know, the food was good, and again, for the time period being there, given that the time period or span was short, I think they did the job of what they were looking to do. Now, with that being said, if you were looking for something with a ton of beach time or maybe more excursion options other than the tour itself, you know, horseback riding and stingray, I think you would maybe be a little disappointed. The island itself isn't, in my opinion, like I said, developed to the point where, you know, it's something that you could go and maybe want to stay overnight, because in my opinion, is well, what would you do aside from the beach? Well, you know, what would you do? And even the staff, a lot of the staff, they're either coming from the ship or they're going home too on a neighboring island, so they're not there either. So it's kind of, you know, it's kind of like a, you know, a dead zone, if you will, after kind of the ship leaves and the tours are done and everybody's kind of moving out. It did come up, of course, at one point in time where I guess they tried to have, or they've had, you know, a couple stowaways, and people try to tend to stow away. Oh, I'll stay on the island a few days, come back and get me later. They were like, no. So they do have like a final port of call to be able to come and, you know, like last tender over to the cruise, if you will. And for whatever reason or another, if you are caught after that time period, they will put you on the employee tender, which goes back to, again, a neighboring key, and you do have to be able to make your own arrangements from there. So that did come up. And you know, and as it was explained, it's because that has happened where people have attempted to stow away. Again, definitely let me know your thoughts about today's video. Have you visited Half Moon Key? Do you have Half Moon Key on your wish list? Is it something that you do plan to consider in the future? And I will see you folks on the next one. Bye.